Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Nigeria's business and economy cycles and issues of businesses around the world. My name is Innocent Odo, and today we have come with a very interesting episode of our regular program on this podcast. And today we are continuing to look at the post-election issues, especially as it has to do with the continuing scarcity of cash as a result of the naira redesign policy of the federal government, which many people thought would ease after the elections. Unfortunately, we're still witnessing serious suffering and serious queues in the banking halls as people try to even get their cash, which of course is not readily available. Now, we are going to interrogate some of these issues here once again to see how far we have gone in this naira redesign policy, whether at all it has benefited Nigeria and in what ways. And of course, we also have to look at the consequences of people not having the money that they launched in the banks, which of course is giving them serious nightmare, as you can see from the banking calls, where many Nigerians are now leaving their regular jobs to go queue up in the banks because they want to either get their cash or to sort out some other crisis that will even have arisen as a result of the crisis arising from this policy. And a lot of people also who have resorted into today e-transaction are having it really difficult because of the chokehold that has become the order of the day because of so much pressure on the system and the platforms are not performing as required of them because of the enormity and probably lack of capacity for them to transmit transactions as at when due. I'm not alone in the studio. I have my regular guest, an ICT expert, with whom I'm going to do justice to this very important topic. I have in the studio Haniel. Haniel, welcome to the program. It's always a pleasure having you. Always a pleasure. Yeah, thank you so much. Now, Haniel, we are still suffering in Nigeria as a result of government policy, and many of us, or we were rather made to believe, will ease inflation in the country. We also stop vote buying in the country. But the whole essence was to ensure that things work well. Right now, Nigerians are not having access to their own cash. And even when they resorted to the e-transaction system, they're also having serious difficulties in doing transactions as a result of the failure of the capacities of these platforms to carry out their transactions. So this appeared to be a catch-22 situation for Nigeria. Jeopardy.
Well,
Double jeopardy, I said.
it's a serious truth, but have we looked at it from the angle of why it's not working? Because most persons are always we always speak to we're very good at designing policies. We're usually very terrible at implementing policies, and it's not as though that the policies designs cannot be implemented. It invariably means that we don't dig deep into crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's before policies can be implemented. It's hard that a policy like this, that is supposed to be a top-notch policy and it's supposed to cover a whole lot of things, it's now being bastardized. We should also take note that this is not the first time that we are bringing up cashless policy thing. The time that the former governor of Central Bank tried to bring up no cashless policy and all that. Because this is the second time we're trying to see how to push it to implement it. What made it not to work in the last time that it was brought up by the CBN government? The former emir of Sanusi. Did we go back to the drawing board to see what are the things that we need to do? Why didn't this thing work? What were people complaining about? What should we put in place? Where should we dodge? What should we not touch? which area would it affect, which area would it not affect. These are the things you learn from experience. You don't you learn from experience of others, so that you don't pass through that same experience. This, I believe, was not done. The policy, though being good, implementation is terrible, because there was lack of uh, there was no, let me go implement. It's a good policy, it's a document policy, but not an implementable policy, because there's nothing critically analyzed and correctly spelled out.
Yeah, I like the way you put it there. It's not been critically analyzed and correctly spelled out. Now, in a nation where people are not, uh, there's a problem of the economy, and when the government promised that they are going to use that to curb inflation, yes, it sounded so technically good, and after over so many weeks now of trying this policy, it seemed not to have given us the desired result. Because if you look at inflation right now, it has not reduced inflation. Inflation has rather increased in last month, you know, from 21.8% to now 21.9%. So if we have to judge the performance of this policy by what the government said it will curb inflation, you can see clearly that it hasn't really curbed inflation. So I'm just anchoring it on the statement you made, lack of thorough thinking in this whole policy. And any policy that is not, no matter the intention of a policy, if a policy is not properly thought out, the implementation will always have a serious backlash in the Nigerian people, just like I see. So, in the immediate, what do you think would be an immediate solution to the crisis that has just bedeviled Nigeria? Because we need this cash, and it appears as if it has been illegal. Our money in the bank has been illegally seized by the central bank.
Okay, well, it's not as I'm not here to speak for the central bank, and I don't know so much. They have some data that will make them to have come to certain conclusions, which I am not privy to. But I believe in the immediate, Nigerians have already begun to develop alternative to cash. I was to use a bike some time ago, and I was concerned because I didn't have cash. So I stopped the guy and I said, "Will you collect transfer?" I said, "No." And I said, "Okay." Because when he was passing, I didn't tell him that I was paying. I said, "Transfer." That was when he stopped. And I said, "Okay, your account number." And he said, "No, I should send him card. I should send you card." Yes. Now I began to ask, I sent him card. I went to where I was going to. When I was somewhere, did the same thing, sent the bike man card. So I began to ask myself, okay, if the bikes in this area are collecting card, does it mean that they replace the goods to get cash? Or does it mean that they now use card to make payment for their product? They want to go and eat, they send card to the person. Because card is not something it's not a fixed value. You can specify the value of airtime top up that you want. And so it gives them that leverage for them to be able to charge. You specify value, in your transaction, and it's easier. You can top up transactions are now faster than banking transactions. So when you're doing card top up, they're not faster than banking transactions. And that means it's something that I believe is that we have over 140 million devices connected to the internet. And that means we have over 150 million phones. That means over 150 million SIMs. And that invariably means that 150 million people can exchange value from bank to bank to phone, or from bank to SIM via airtime. So you retrieve your money from the bank by buying airtime, or you transfer your money, you transfer airtime to someone as a means of exchange via a bank, and the person gets value for that money and for that services. Now, what would now be the concern? Would this money be how would I now be able to convert? Because there will be definitely someone that needs that would now be able to convert that money into raw cash. How does the central bank want to manage that person? May not be someone that will want to convert into raw cash. It would not be so because the reason why these bike guys don't collect or all those the unbanked don't collect transfer is because they don't have bank accounts. That's why they're called the unbanked.
Yeah.
But they have phone numbers. So you can use airtime to manage their situation. They collect airtime. Then they can now use it for within themselves. Then when they get to someone that needs that has account, they transfer and they get value for their money. So they can do that transfer, then card to account transfer or top up to account transfer. And that for me, for the time being, can reduce the rate of uh, dependent on transactions that are account to account.
Okay, you see, the e-transaction system that many people now resorted to actually started having problems because, according to some experts, the capacity of the banks to carry the load that suddenly came upon them was not really adequate. And so there's a backlog or there's what they call infrastructure overstretch. So now that, like you said, how can a policy of this nature be carried out in such a haste and the deposit money institutions were not given the opportunity to expand their data system so that they can accommodate the wave of this
To start
transactional account?
to start with, I will fault the supervising agency for the banking system because while you are doing they're doing well in ensuring that the bank is up and banks are up and running. They are supposed to design a system that makes the bank to easily and flexibly uh, expand its infrastructure within needs. But now that's not the case. It's taking hours because as it stands now, it means that the banks are running their server themselves. They have their own data center. For them to upgrade or scale up their infrastructure, they have to buy the infrastructure. So these infrastructures are not even cheap. So one day you have to import it, and the amount it takes to import, the time it takes to import, you have to buy. Get now this invariably is going to now mean that they will take much time to scale up. They will spend a whole lot of money to scale up. Yeah. And it means their infrastructure are not flexible. And working with an assumption that the policy on the long run now, there is no need for them to reduce the infrastructure because by then everybody must have the cash must have circulated, everybody must have gotten all they need to get and all that. And they now find out that they need to now reduce their infrastructure. What now happens to the infrastructure that they bought? You get so the infrastructure they bought will it be a waste now? What will now happen to it? What will they do with it? Because they are buying. Why some banks are not even looking at the possibility of scaling is because there is a tendency that if they scale and buy all the infrastructure, and when the oil pressure comes down, the infrastructure that they bought will be like a waste. Yeah. So what are they going to do at that point? So now what they are trying to do is to ensure that they manage the situation. This is what we have. We make the best use of the infrastructure that we have, hopefully whether it is, but for a short period of time. Now, the word short in this context is relative because we don't know how long it will be. Again. So that's why I say I will blame the supervising agency for not giving the bank a, a compliance kind of framework that ensures that the bank is able to scale itself, reduce and increase and reduce and increase its infrastructure.
Okay, now why we are so concerned about this is that for the past couple of weeks, you could see the anger, the frustration on the people of Nigeria looking for cash and can't find it. Yes, they have resorted to alternative. A lot of the alternative have helped people. up till now, the suffering has not abated. Now, if there is no cash in the bank, I have not seen anywhere in the world where people do naira or currency redesign, as the case may be, where you walk into the bank and they told you they don't even have the cash to give you. I don't know of any country in recent history where that has happened, apart from Nigeria. Now, if we may ask, what do you think really was the problem? Is it that they didn't have the capacity to print as much money as required in circulation? Or, or
No, I think well, I'm not a professional in economics, but I think Nigeria as a country depends so much on cash transactions, and our ability to move away from that cash transaction is what's bringing forth all this suffering. We don't Many persons don't have confidence in online transactions. I mean, yet I've not had cash for I think over a month now. But I've been doing my transactions. I've been looking for alternatives and all that. There are those who the reason is because even when cash was available as a blessing, I don't usually it's not something that I move around with. I do most of my transactions online. Yes. So most persons are not like me. Majority of Nigerians are not like me, so they depend heavily on cash to do whatsoever transaction they want to do. They go to shopping mall, they pay with cash. They go to anywhere, even when there are alternatives you can pay with, they don't care. I want to pay with cash because now also the sellers will tell you pay me cash. Yes. You get, but those possibilities, those dynamics are changing because the sellers are now accepting cash transfers. They are now getting POS machines. They get and so many possibilities are now exist within the supply and demand economies. So we need to now start learning how to depend on electronic. It's easier to depend on the digital on electronic transaction than depend on cash because when you depend on electronic transaction, the only thing the banks can do is to scale up their infrastructure to accommodate that transaction or to accommodate your transaction. If they do that, it will go a long way and ensure that those that depend on cash, begin to look at that alternative of using electronic transaction for most of their transactions.
okay, yeah, we're looking at the benefits of this, like you said. Um, yes, the inflation, like I said, it hasn't caused inflation. And the other angle is that it will stop politicians who are bent on mobilizing resources to also mobilize their thoughts and to buy votes. These are some of the reasons given for introducing this policy. Yeah, Daniel, you can see that in the last legendary elections that just ended on Friday, on Saturday, in the governorship and the state house of assembly elections. A lot of reports from across the country came in that thugs were recruited by some forces known and unknown to disrupt elections, to give people injuries of different degrees, and even some people were killed in the process. So you can see that, yes, the magnitude of violence is quite much in this particular elections. Therefore, the cash design policy that was now designed to curb the political rascality in the country didn't actually go a long way in doing that. So I'm asking you, I know this is more like a political question, but everything now revolves around what we do as a people with this policy and how we are going to move forward from here to ensure that we ease the suffering of Nigeria.
Okay, well, I didn't believe that the policy didn't do much. It just didn't do as expected because you would notice that the concerns of vote buying or evidence as regards vote buying compared to 2019 elections, the numbers of pronounced evidence as regards vote buying compared in this 2023 election compared to 2019 election. There's a drastic drop in that statistic. What then happened was, or what happened was that they looked for alternate means of ensuring that this guy is performing. And the policy, we should also take note of the fact that originally the old 500 and 1,000 that was not that was no longer legal tender during the presidential and now became legal tender in the governorship election, and that made it possible for some political party aspirants or candidates, sorry, who had stocked up money in old currency to bring it out and spend, and that I would say influenced the whole crisis of uh, talk machineries and the likes. So it's not a direct bad thing that the policy. I would not personally. I would not say that the policy failed. I would say the policy didn't meet expectation, but to a reasonable extent, not to an extent, not to an extent, it did some job because we would have seen worse if there was no redesign policy. The case would have been worse than what we saw. There was no redesign policy, and the bottom line still means that there is need to be a change of attitude as regards our dependence on cash to dependent on electronic when the electronic infrastructure has been scaled up and so on.
Okay, now a lot of people are already counting their losses because of this cashless policy and coming out of the design naira and so on and so forth. Now, while it is actually difficult to quantify the amount of losses recorded by businesses, one can often say that the small scale business enterprises that depend on cash flows are actually the worst hit. And a lot of estimations are that billions of naira may have been lost by this set of people to the economy and even jobs that were originally people had, those jobs have been lost as well by this same policy. Now, if that behoves the people, the government, why would a policy that is meant to ameliorate a situation end up aggravating the situation? So it boils down to the fact that you said before, anytime a policy that doesn't make the desired impact, can it actually be called a policy in the first place?
Okay. It now depends on how you're looking at it. If you're looking at it in wholesomeness, whether this is the objective of this policy, it has not met the objective, so let us knock it off, let us, it's no longer a foreign policy. Or this is the objective of the policy, but as a result of these policies, we did not meet the objective, but there were there were other things that were not in the objective that was met as a result of this policy. So if you're looking at it from each of these angles, you're correct. So it is now we that will now decide, okay, me, I think I'll go with this angle. You, I think you will go with this angle. And we will now begin to put up whatsoever debate we want to put up in our perspective, based on our perspective. But generally, the policy, I believe the policy the implementation of the policy can be reworked. It can be, it's not, I would not agree, I would not advocate for complete nullification of the policy or removal of the policy. I believe it has good impact. Again, as regards the whole the whole inflection, rising inflection. Yes. The reason is because people are as at last month, people are not adjusted to the policy. So there is that possibility for inflation to be high. But looking at this month, next month, when people begin to know that this policy has come to stay, in fact, in the MPC, the monetary policy yesterday, it's obvious that this policy is not even anytime soon. So people will begin to know that okay, this policy has come to stay. So what are my alternatives? If I can't use banking transaction, if I can't get cash, what other alternative do I have? People begin to look at those possibilities, and when they look at those possibilities, they develop on it, they work on it, and they begin to use it, and the inflation will definitely move. Well, I'm not an economist again, but I believe inflation will stabilize when everybody knows that okay, you can pay. Because now the reason why inflation is high is because there is a value you're paying for something that you're not getting value for. If you want to buy a product, you buy, but in addition to that payment, you would also pay extra charges in case you want to withdraw.
Yes.
That's the reason why there is the high inflation. So you are buying that extra money you're paying. There's no value in it, but you're just paying it. So definitely it's going to increase. It's going to affect the inflation rate. But once people get used to it, you know fully well that their transaction or the CBN comes out with a policy that necessitates that you having a POS, you have a POS as a business, only POS persons can get cash. So, and you can only get cash when you bring your POS to the bank. Submit your POS, they will check it. Like the technology called carry card that is being used in Lagos works offline. So you have a carry card, you have a POS card, you use it, they debit you on the carry card to the POS machine. All your money will be in the POS, the carry machine, and you take the carry machine to the bank or to an exchanger. You will now withdraw the debit and then give you physical cash. So there are different ways to go around re-implementing the policy instead of scrapping it out completely. You can work around the card situation where you put in exchanger for card. If you know that you have up to 10,000 naira card, bring 10,000 naira card, I will give you cash. Okay, so all the unbank would transact with card, then the fund would now be collected in the account of one person that has a bank, who would now take it to the bank or to an exchanger, get cash for that reason. And there are so many ways the policy can be redesigned and implemented.
Well, in so many ways, as you said, the policy can be redesigned. Is it going to be in the life of this current administration? Because they're already winding up. By May 29 this year, the Buhari government will start, will say goodbye to Nigerians, and then they will vacate the ASO Arab presidential villa. And so, whether the incoming government will continue with this program or policy remains to be seen. Not minding the fact that, of course, there are some controversies surrounding the outcome of the election already, and legal litigations have already started. Honest. And so we are going to continue to interrogate these issues until we begin to see the desired impact in the life of the Nigerian people. And so we will, say, well, Nigerian people are the ones that are feeling the heat. They are feeling that, they are feeling it so harshly these days because of this policy that obviously from the start didn't meet expectations and well-intentioned though, but not properly implemented. And the backlash have been very enormous in the life of Nigerian people. So, but as Nigerians, they're always we always say, very resilient people. They always know how to adjust to things and readjust. Last. So, but that is the spirit of the Nigerian people. Well, we have been discussing the issue of the post-election scarcity that has also increased suffering in the country, where many people have expressed optimism and hope that after the elections, the cash will start flowing once again. But it's not happening at the moment, and the banks are said to be trying to re-strategize to find a way to start producing the cash for Nigerians to once again have their cash and so that the suffering will stop. But at the moment, I do not know whether it's going to happen today, but like my colleague and my guest has said here, the cashless policy has come to stay. We can only go back to the drawing boards and reorganize, re-strategize, and refocus it to make it even more effective while we continue to grow the economy. And it's on that note that we draw the curtains on today's edition of our morning radio and leadership broadcast. I've been in the studio with Haniel Defari, of course, an ICT expert who has actually helped me in no small way to do justice to this very important topic. Once again, Haniel, thank you so much for coming. It's always a pleasure having you. And so, we promise you to bring a bumper edition of the program when next we come. Stay blessed and
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.